thing that concerns me the most is the threat to our democracy posed by the constant droning of message that comes from the right wing and from Trump himself and all his supporters. Frankly, the cult that they've developed is a serious threat to our democracy because left unchecked, it can become a corrosive thing that at best erodes democracy, at worst destroys it. So I'm thankful that Progress Texas is out there countering that message every day, helping people understand that there is an alternative facts, the real facts, that they should listen to instead of the nonsense coming out of the right.
It's Friday, December 12th, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch. Rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett's entry into the Texas Senate race has elevated that Democratic primary contest to a top national news priority, as one might have expected it would. 4 days since Crockett's late-breaking announcement, Jill Filipovich at Slate writes on the implications of the primary contest between Crockett and fellow Democrat and Austin State Rep James Talarico in terms of the direction of the national party at this key moment. This is a great read highlighting the stylistic battle between the two, with Crockett's viral-ready clapbacks sharpened over time, particularly against Donald Trump, her unrestrained fighter persona designed to mobilize inactive anti-Trump voters, as opposed to Talarico's brand of populism colored by academia and theology, calmly championing unity and decency, a style that weaponizes politeness and steady calculation in order to bury his opponents in debate. Filipovich writes on how this contrast between two of progressive Texas's most dynamic voices represents a broader and fundamental strategic crossroads for the entire Democratic Party, whether to adopt a media-savvy confrontational approach like Crockett's to fight MAGA, or counter Trumpism in a more traditional, unifying, and policy-focused demeanor like Talarico's. The style that prevails in March will provide a loud and clear signal to the rest of the country on what strategy Democratic voters, at least those in Texas, believe will be the most effective in November and moving into what we hope will be a new post-Trump era. More writing on Congresswoman Crockett from Ed Kilgore at New York Magazine, who wonders if what he calls the Congresswoman's vibes-based politics can work in a statewide campaign in Texas. The question here is the dynamic between election strategies designed to persuade swing voters and those designed to mobilize base voters. Crockett definitely appears in the latter camp, and perhaps a bit less definitively, Talarico is in the former. Again, which of the two prevails? First among Democrats for the primary and then across the entire state for the general remains to be seen. Another good read on all this from New York Magazine in the show notes. Meanwhile, the Republican side is actively promoting their pleasure at the prospect of facing Jasmine Crockett in Texas in November. We don't source Fox News here just a whole lot, but former Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy was on earlier this week yucking it up with claims that the GOP has successfully lured Congresswoman Crockett into this run, unflatteringly comparing her to another female candidate of color, Kamala Harris, and highlighting the idea that Crockett has already rejected any Texan who has ever voted for Trump via her strategy to activate non-voters. It's gross to watch, frankly, but it's helpful occasionally to have a look at what the other side's saying. We can expect Fox News and other right-wing news outlets to crank up the Crockett hate to 10, especially after the primary should she win the nomination for Senate. It's low-hanging fruit for them, frankly, and just look at these guys. Nothing's more fun for Fox News than taking free swings at a black woman. Michelle Davis at Lone Star Left has the second part of her initial analysis of the Texas ballot up, and it includes the beginning of what we expect to be a long-term laser focus on State Board of Education member Julie Pickren, a complete embarrassment to Texas, completely unqualified for the position she holds. She made the radar by taking part in the January 6th insurrection, which apparently was plenty to get her elected by Republicans in Southeast Texas in 2023. Davis writes, quote, during her stint on the board, she's put Christian nationalism in our school books, erased any mention of climate change, and has been pushing to implement PragerU in Texas public schools. Why? Because she's never read a history book and has no qualifications to be in the position she's in. Julie Pickren is the first and only, so far, January 6th participant to be elected to state government after January 6th, which is why getting her out and fixing that blunder is so essential, unquote, and agreed. There are several Democratic challengers to Julie Pickren, and picking the strongest of them will be essential to any chance to flip that state Board of Education seat away from a complete MAGA lunatic doing actual real damage to the education of all of our kids across the state of Texas. Lots more from this latest entry from Lone Star Left, and lots more to come from what's become a go-to resource for me personally. See the show notes. Democratic candidate for Congressional District 34, Etienne Rosas, who's challenging fellow Democrat and incumbent Vicente Gonzalez Jr. in that race, thought he'd show up at a Greg Abbott event in Weslaco the other day to ask about the governor's tax giveaway to the wealthy and how it would affect working-class families in the RGV, where schools, healthcare, and other essential services are already underfunded. But not only was Rosas not allowed to ask his question, he was forcibly booted from the event for daring to try. Videos getting around of a local cop, clearly drinking Abbott's Kool-Aid, laying hands on Rosas as he was walking out the door. Rosas' campaign is said to be filing a complaint against this officer, while Abbott's office denies anything went particularly wrong here. Video in the show notes. You be the judge. We mentioned yesterday one of the many reasons to make a change at the Texas Land Commissioner's office, which is the eagerness with which current Land Commissioner Don Buckingham turns over Texas land to Donald Trump for the purpose of building detention facilities into which Trump can disappear his political undesirables. The very next day, a story pops up about the deplorable conditions detainees at these facilities, including women and children, are suffering under right now. Priscilla Alvarez and Michael Williams at CNN say immigrant families are reporting in particular the situation at the South Texas Family Residential Center in Dilley, which is southwest of San Antonio, run by the Trump Department of Homeland Security. Overcrowded conditions, denial of critical medical care, worms and mold in provided food that result in children becoming ill, water of questionable quality, threats of family separations by officers and staff, kids who are weak, faint, pale, and often crying because they're so hungry, lighting that makes sleep difficult, on and on and on, according to Licia Welch, Deputy Litigation Director at the advocacy group Children's Rights. All happening right here, right now in your Texas. So what are you going to do about it? That's a question to keep top of mind throughout this upcoming weekend. It's go time, y'all. And we're excited to see you at our second Progress Texas holiday party for 2025. It's coming up Monday night in Dallas, December 15th, featuring a second live podcast recording, this time with Austin State Rep and gubernatorial candidate Gina Hinojosa, Austin State Rep and candidate for Lieutenant Governor Vicki Goodwin, Texas House Democratic Caucus Chair and Houston State Rep Gene Wu, and candidate for Attorney General Joe Jaworski. This year's holiday celebrations with you are made possible by Shaping the Future supporter Charles Zeller, Fired Up supporter John Adair, Be the Change supporters Alex Andrade, Scott Elphinstone, Howard Cleon, the Honorable Dick Levine, and the Honorable James Talarico. Persistence supporters the Honorable Yasmin Simon, the People's Last Stand in Dallas, Jason Smith and Sarah Pareda, Unified, and Jerry Yoss. Good Trouble supporters Allison Grinter Allen, Bright Blue Inc., Alex Clark and Kate Rumsey, hosts of the Mission Texas podcast, John Cotter, Valerie DeBille, Amy Forehand, the Honorable Vicki Goodwin, Josh Harris, Freda Held, Joe Jaworski, Eric Johnson and Dr. Mark Parker, the Honorable Ron Nierenberg, the Honorable Bill Peterson III, and Mark Yagjian. And Raise More Hell supporters Avow, Louis A. Bedford IV, the Honorable John Busey III, Stuart Campbell, Hannah Cutshall, Charles Hodebeck, Bill Holston, the Honorable Donna Howard, Will Judy, Dave Jones, Angela and Gary Kutak, Jenny Laughlin, Carol Orr, Jennifer Owen, Palmer for Justice Campaign, Mark Ferris, Gary Potts, Printed Union, the Honorable Zoe Kadri, Save Texas, Beth Stromberg, the Honorable Adam Swartz, and the Texas Progressive Caucus. Our mission at Progress Texas is to counter the billionaire and corporate-funded conservative disinformation machine, and we rely largely on listener support to keep doing what we do. While we enjoy the support of hundreds of partners, chances are that you, dear listener, haven't joined the team yet. If you're a regular, let's get you on board right now. Huge thanks to monthly supporters Carrie White, Kristen Hartwell, and Ben John Luckins. We appreciate all of you very, very much. Join the team now at progresstexas.org. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Friday, December 12th, 2025. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit, rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day and a terrific weekend. Be safe, and we'll see you again on Monday.